Hi everyone, welcome to my Mass Effect 3 video review. I realize this is kind of late considering the game came out last year in March, but I think I have something interesting to say, so I'm going to say it. I am actually defending Mass Effect 3's ending in this video review, so I know there's probably going to be a lot of haters if I get any video views at all, but I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully it makes you think differently about the ending. Last year in March, Mass Effect 3 was released. While it was well received critically, discontent and outright rage brewed among many fans over the game's ending. At least online, it is not a popular thing to say that you enjoyed and perhaps even loved Mass Effect 3's ending. In this video, I will articulate why I enjoyed the ending. There's a catch, however. I believe in the indoctrination theory. Please don't run. There are fans out there who believe in the theory and still dislike the ending. I want to explain why the theory works, thematically and emotionally, as an ending to the trilogy. First though, I'll recount my thoughts during my first playthrough of the ending, because I feel it's important to be honest about how I felt prior to embracing the indoctrination theory. Okay, so by the time I reached Earth, I can tell you that I felt the game delivered on most fronts. A lot of the key storylines wrapped up very satisfactorily, but I was disappointed in the romantic storylines in the game. Compared to how important they were in the previous two games, number 3 felt kinda short, especially considering many love interests from the second game were pushed aside, some almost non-existent. I'll admit, more development time was needed. The overall package, though, was superb. Okay, so, going back to Earth, I think the real ending starts at the top of the hill going towards the Citadel beam. Here, I'll recount my thoughts. So, as I get near the Citadel beam, Harbinger unleashes his red laser of death. It runs up towards me, and the screen just goes white. I thought, holy shit. Bioware just killed Shepard. And then after hearing Coates' radio that they were all dead, I knew why everyone was so upset. They offed Shepard before the ending of the game. But then it fades back to the beam, and all of a sudden Harbinger is leaving and Coates is calling off the troops, and I'm thinking, okay, never mind then. It definitely seemed off, even on my first playthrough. I mean, logically speaking, the Reapers would never have left the beam without absolutely eradicating any possible life form within its proximity. But I'll leave those points to other YouTube documentarians. Yet I convinced myself that Bioware wouldn't kill Shepard. They just wouldn't do that. He had to make it to the beam. The next few scenes inside the Citadel only raised further questions. But it was only after Captain Anderson died and Shepard fell in front of the control panel, presumably dead, that I then felt everything after that took place in his head. My assumption was that he lost consciousness, which I guess technically is dying, and then the Reaper Starchild enter his mind and give him one last test. And I always saw the ending with the 3 choices as having a metaphoric quality, and I quite enjoyed the game ending on a choice rather than a boss battle. But even though I saw the ending more metaphorically, I did not think the whole thing was indoctrination. So, I made my choice based on what I felt was wisest. In the end, I chose synthesis, and I justified this by thinking, well, the Reapers are impossible to defeat with brute force, so it's best to unite the synthetics and organics, thus destroying the Reaper's entire purpose, according to the Starchild, of course. And this will bring peace, despite the fact that I'm forcing the whole galaxy to mix their DNA. I thought, I'm saving their lives. That's better than letting them all die, right? Then the final cinematic played, and I had 2 thoughts. Number 1, this is sort of dreamlike, and number 2, this is sort of disappointing, at least emotionally. Part of me feels like it was meant to be ambiguous, and emotionally in flux, but I started to gather why fans were so upset. It didn't leave me feeling overly satisfied, like Bioware games usually do. That's what she said. Naturally, I then went to find out why fans were so upset. That's when I learned each of the 3 endings were very similar, which was intriguing in itself. But it was the perfect Destroy ending that really intrigued me. Although I'm upset the only reason I didn't get this ending once I replayed the game for Destroy was because I didn't play the multiplayer for the high EMS rating. That's one justified knock I give the game. You shouldn't have to play multiplayer to get all of the single player content. Well, at least the ending. Okay. One theory on the game's ending was brought to my attention on a forum. I was linked to a video by Clever Noob Network, and I knew immediately, just by the length of it, that this was going to be a hardcore analysis. By the end of it, I was stunned. It all clicked. Of course, I'm disappointed I didn't replay the games and come to the same theory myself, but we can't always eat the cake too. By the way, Julian's work on those 3 documentaries should be commended. I may disagree with his opinion in demanding Bioware tell us the correct ending, but I respect his passion and devotion. Anywho, the indoctrination theory is brilliant. It took what I thought was an interesting, if not emotionally disappointing ending, and it made it something much, much more. In fact, it topples what I thought would have been the most daring ending for the series. My original idea for the ending would have had you lose against the Reapers no matter what you do. But if you were able to rally the galaxy together, uniting synthetics and organics, and Liara saved all this information, it would allow the next cycle to finally end the Reaper threat. And this is actually hinted at in the refusal ending of Extended Cut. A friend of mine said the problem with that ending is that you don't see an emotional payoff for your actions. Well, I would have probably had the same Stargazer scene in my version, letting you know what happens in the future. But in essence, yes, you wouldn't see the direct result of uniting the galaxy. But guess what? You would know that what you did saved the future, and you would be dying honorably with your friends in London, hoping the next cycle would prevail. I always found this idea experimental, seeing as you lose, but also more mature and thoughtful than just killing the Reaper straight out. It also resonates with the themes of the series. But Bioware's ending, if you believe the indoctrination theory to be true, is even more experimental and even more daring than mine. Under this theory, we don't even know whether the galaxy defeated the Reapers, which is pretty amazing if you ask me. All we know is that Shepard, if you chose to destroy ending with high EMS rating, is lying half dead in a pile of rubble in London. This is why many fans, some who even articulate and perpetuate the indoctrination theory, like Julian from Clever Noob Network, feel like there is no ending to Mass Effect 3. Despite these fans believing the IT theory to be clever and thoughtful, they cannot accept an ambiguous cliffhanger that leaves the enemy at large and the heroes hanging. Believe it or not, this same scenario occurred with Metal Gear Solid 2's ending, although to a lesser degree. At the end of that game, the surprise villain, Liquid Snake, and overarching villain, the Patriots, are still at large. The main conflict, the main struggle between a tyrannical government and a ruthless rebel is not resolved. But the emotional arc of the story, of Raiden and the player's journey, is resolved. He goes from an ignorant, emotionally repressed Solid Snake wannabe to a man who is self-aware, who is willing to embrace life outside of war, and who is finally ready to find his own identity and not live in the shadow of Snake. That's the real story. And it's not a whole lot different in Mass Effect 3. In fact, because this series allows player choice, the ending is even more in alignment with the player's journey, and the final 3 choices test the player's knowledge of the franchise. Your choice reflects your character, your understanding of the Reaper's purpose. It's the ultimate boss battle. According to the indoctrination theory, control and synthesis lead you right into the Reaper's claws, just as the elusive man and Siren were indoctrinated. Only destroy allows you to resist the Reaper's indoctrination attempt, and depending on the strength of your alliance, you either die as yourself, and not as a Reaper puppet, or you wake up alive in London, half dead but free of the Reaper's indoctrination. Yes, the battle is not technically finished, but that has honestly never bothered me. Why, you ask? Because Shepard's character arc, your journey as him or her, is resolved in a mental duel with the Reapers. By resisting them, you have proven that you understood the themes of the series and are now free to die. Your battle is over. You win. That's the point. The ending, if you haven't fallen for the Reaper's tricks, is a personal victory, and by extension, a victory for everyone you led. It doesn't matter whether your forces ultimately succeed or fail. What matters is that you've resisted the essence of the Reapers. Control, power, domination. You rise above it. You have done your part, given it your all. I think it's a phenomenal way to end it all. But if you don't like it, it's cool. What I just don't understand is how some fans get off saying Bioware owes them a certain ending, or must come down on one side of the argument regarding the ending. It was meant to be ambiguous. The ambiguity gives it meaning and purpose. Many fans believe they saved the universe at the end of the game. Others believe it was all an indoctrination attempt and Shepard is still lying in the rubble. Others believe other things. Either way, it invites debate, discussion, and forces people to look back at the whole trilogy more thoughtfully. It works. Sure, the emotional payoff wasn't quite there like in Knights of the Old Republic, but this ending is more ambitious and is trying to push the boundaries of what a traditional RPG or game ending in general has to be. I often hear fans say the ending's ambiguity gives Bioware license to release an unnecessary amount of DLC elaborating on that ending. Technically, it does, but the implication is that Bioware wrote its ending based solely on the expectation that new DLC would be demanded. This assertion is absurd. It's clear from a number of interviews that the creators and writers knew exactly how they wanted to finish the series. Bioware has continually hoisted the Mass Effect series up as their flagship IP. The men and women who worked on this series poured innumerable hours into its creation. It's a joke to say Mass Effect 3 was not a labor of love. It wasn't perfect. Certain aspects could have benefited from more development time. The ending, even if it takes place in Shepard's indoctrinated head, could have been more tailored to each player's choices and love interest. But it's the overall package, and a less literal take on the ending, that should define its legacy. But this whole issue really does raise intriguing questions about the line drawn between content producers and consumers. Regardless of profit or legality, do game designers owe their fans more? Should they change their artistic direction to fit what their fans envisioned? Where do you draw the line between respecting a large portion of your fan base and respecting the artistic direction of the writers and game directors without alienating either side? There's no clear answer to that. I think it's a case-by-case basis. And I also think it has to do with the medium. Most people wouldn't demand painters, graphic designers, musicians, or screenwriters and directors to change their artistic vision. I've heard a few cases where fans of several book series sent threatening letters to their prominent novelist. Think Annie Wilkes' Misery. But it's so rare for writers to directly respond to such criticism by actually making changes to their work. It's exceptional, actually. But gaming is a different medium. Not only is it a young industry, it's interactive, and writers and game directors are finding new innovative ways to tell stories through this medium. Like film, games are a collaborative effort, requiring a large team to complete their development. And while it's collaborative, game development is headed by a director or a set of directors and writers who have developed a cohesive vision for the game, like some films. But many fans see Mass Effect and other choice-based games as being publicly collaborative. In other words, the fans believe they are also writing the story and that their choices throughout the series should deliver certain outcomes. Now, while fan feedback is often a central part of formulating future game design decisions, it is not the final say. It must be remembered that the fans did not write Mass Effect 1. The first game was not a collaborative writing project between the fans and developers. Bioware created a universe for all of us to participate in, shaping our characters based on predetermined story paths. The Mass Effect universe already existed before we arrived. The choices we make in the game are only available because the writers and game designers put them there. It's true we put down $60 or less for a game, but these game designers put 2, sometimes 3 years of their life into a project. They pour countless hours into a product that claims technological and interactive excellence. And because a group of fans feel entitled and feel as if they are co-creators, they seek to change that artistic direction because they dislike, perhaps hated, the last 20 minutes of a game. This level of entitlement is unwarranted. I don't remember seeing this level of backlash at the Star Wars prequels. In fact, the best response to those films came from the Plinkett reviews on Red Letter Media. That is how you criticize and express disappointment, through detailed and analytical deconstruction, not petty lawsuits and petitions and overly negative 1-star Amazon reviews. Once again, there is nothing wrong with expressing disappointment, but it should be done respectfully and constructively. I think Ray Muzica summed the situation up cordially and articulately. He said, "I believe passionately that games are an art form, and that the power of our medium flows from our audience, who are deeply involved in how the story unfolds, and who have the uncontested right to provide constructive criticism. At the same time, I also believe in and support the artistic choices made by the development team. The team and I have been thinking hard about how to best address the comments on Mass Effect 3's endings from players, while still maintaining the artistic integrity of the game." Thanks for watching, everybody, and I just want to let you know that I'm kind of used to defending unpopular games or unpopular endings since Metal Gear Solid 2. I defended that ending and that entire game since it was released very fervently, so I know what it's like to face backlash for these opinions. But I like experimental endings. I like weird stuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Made you think a little bit differently about it. Okay, bye bye.